Hello, Bob Riedfeld here, preaching and teaching minister of the Spring Hill Christian Church of rural Oak Lockney, Georgia, and welcome to our study on the Doctrine of God. And I apologize for not putting out a lesson this past week. Just so many different things were going on, and it became Saturday already, and so I hadn't had time to record those lessons. So I apologize for that. We're going to go ahead and get studying about the Doctrine of God, and we started talking about God as a creator, and in this section we're going to talk about the nature of God the creator, his transcendence. And so to transcend means to climb over or to go beyond. Thus transcendence means beyondness or otherness. And to speak of God's transcendence is to speak of his most fundamental relationship with his creation. God transcends his creation. He goes beyond it and is different from it. God's transcendence or beyondness has to do with the nature of his being, not his spatial location. It's an essential transcendence, not a spatial transcendence. God's transcendence is commonly misunderstood as being spatial. In other words, that he's somehow beyond the outer boundaries of space. He is spoken of as up yonder or far beyond the starry skies or way beyond the blue. This leads to the mistaken idea that transcendence means God is outside the universe, with his attribute of immanence being the very opposite. For example, that he's at the same time present within his universe. That's not a responsible view when taken literally. God's transcendence is a matter of his essence. It has to do with his nature, not his location. God's transcendence is his ontological otherness, not his spatial remoteness. It refers to his ontological difference, not his spatial distance. Because he is transcendent means that he is present everywhere. In other words, he's omnipresent. There are some extreme views of transcendence, some classic examples, some exaggerated immanence is found in Stoicism, which is pantheistic. Exaggerated transcendence in the mainstream Greek philosophy. In other words, Aristotle's unmoved mover. This view has considerable influence on early Christian thought. The modern debate, exaggerated transcendence, deism, also popular piety, which often pictures God as being spiritually remote, an exaggerated immanence, Spinoza's pantheism and classical liberalism, exaggerated transcendence, neo-orthodoxy, exaggerated immanence, neoliberalism, and you may recognize names such as Bultmann, Tillich, and Bonhoeffer. Secular theology defined God as a dimension of the universe. God is down here. He is other persons. He is the ever arriving but always elusive future. All of those are inaccurate views of transcendence of God. And so transcendence as it relates to creation, only if God is truly transcendent is he truly God. Only if God is the ex nihilo, out of nothing creator, is he truly transcendent. There are basic truths for the doctrine of God. There are two aspects of divine transcendence. God is ontologically transcendent and epistemologically transcendent. And what I'm going to be dealing with is the former. God is distinct from his creations in the essence of his being. God's essence is uncreated spirit. This has to do with what God is made of. That he is transcendent means he is a qualitatively different kind of being. Some people feel that it's improper to speak of God in this way at all. He's not a being at all, they say. Rather, he is being itself, or the ground of being. But God does exist. And to exist is to have being. All being is not matter, behavior, or material being. Neither is all being spiritual being in the sense of created spirits. The whole point of transcendence is that God's being transcends matter and all other created being, including created spiritual being. God is different. He alone is creator, and all else, material or spiritual, is creature or created. God is spirit, John 4:24, and this is probably as close as we can come to a positive understanding of the essence, of divine essence. The nature of spirit. There are some negative aspects of spirithood, non-corporeal. I always get mixed up. Non-corporeality, non-corporeality. Look in Luke chapter 24, verses 36 through 43, and John 4:20 and following. Matter is by nature limited and weak. We must never think of God as a material being. Exodus 24, Deuteronomy 4:12 through 18. Contrary to Mormon doctrine, God does not have a material body. A negative aspect of spirithood, invisibility. See 1 Timothy 6:16 and 1:17, Colossians 1:15, and Romans 1:20. No man has seen or can see God in his pure essence. John 1:18, John 5:37, 1 John 4:12, Exodus 33:20, 1 Timothy 6:16. So then how do we explain his appearances in human form and his being described as having human form? Don't confuse references to Christ's glorified human nature with his divine nature. For example, Philippians 3:21, 1 John 3:1 and following, and Romans 8:29. Some references are to theophanies, which are appearances of God in human or other form. These involve temporary, ex nihilo, out of nothing creations of bodily form. They do not necessarily represent some actual shape or essence of God. For example, the Holy Spirit is not in its essence shaped like a dove. Language which attributes a bodily shape or bodily parts to God is anthropomorphic. It's meant to symbolize certain attributes or actions of God, not to describe how he actually exists. There are some positive aspects of spirithood. Life. This is a main reason for the anthropomorphic language. Personhood. This is of the very essence of spirit. Impersonal spirit does not exist. The characteristics of personhood are rational consciousness, self-consciousness, self-determination, interpersonal relationships. We have the personhood and the Trinity, the personhood and gender. These characteristics of spiritual existence are shared by all spirit beings, including created spirits made in the image of God. And this is what it means to exist as spirit. This is the essence of spirit. And in this sense, created spirits are like God. Thus, his transcendence is not absolute. God is uncreated spirit. The creator-creature distinction is basic And so we need to understand that God is distinct from his creation in the very essence of his being. He is qualitatively distinct from his creation. We are like God, but are not of the same essence as God. God transcends our being, goes beyond it. He alone is uncreated spirits. We do not know all that this entails. In other words, to say God is not matter does not explain what he is. It simply emphasizes that he is different. See 1 Timothy 6:16, Romans 1:23 and 25, John 1:3, and Revelation 5:13. The distinction is based on ex nihilo creation, out of nothing. The fact that God is creator, uncreated spirit, means he transcends even the realm of created spirits. God is not naturally visible and available to angels. His appearance before them in heaven is a spiritual theophany. On rare occasions, human beings in this life have been granted a view of this spiritual theophany. See Exodus chapter 24, Numbers 12, Isaiah 6, Acts chapter 7, Revelation 4, Exodus chapter 33. This is the sense in which we shall see God in the eschaton, or the end, in which others have already seen him on rare occasions. The holiness of God. The basic meaning of the word for holy is separate or distinct. There are two aspects of holiness: ontological, of being, and ethical. And so what is ethical holiness? It is God's separation from sin and from man as sinner. Isaiah 5 or 59:2. See 1 Peter 1:15 through 16. This shows that this aspect of holiness is a communicable attribute. And so what is ontological holiness? It's God's separation from creation and from man as creature. This is God's transcendence, that his holy otherness, holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y, otherness, his exaltation is infinite majesty, his utter godness. It is his divinity, his deity. It testifies to the inscrutable mystery and otherness of God, to the separation between the creator and the creaturely. It is that which makes God God. The Holy One of Israel is simple and profound, the God of Israel. See Isaiah 6:3, Revelation 4:8 and 15:4, Exodus 15:11. And as such, ontological holiness is unique with God. It is an incommunicable attribute. These two aspects of holiness correspond to two senses of the fear of God, or the terror and the awe of God. The two aspects of holiness also correspond to the two aspects of sanctification, in initial sanctification and progressive sanctification, the change of one position and then the change of character over time. The exaltedness of God, spatial language is used to express God's exaltedness, but it's not simply it does not imply spatial transcendence or location. Consider, for example, Christ's ascension. This language is used figuratively to reflect value, rank, or esteem. God's transcendence is related to this world dimensionally, not spatially. God is not located in our three-dimensional space, but is adjacent to it at every single point. God is distinct from his creation. Next week, we're going to talk about God is distinct from his creation in the mode of his existence. In other words, he is infinite. And so I hope you will join me, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I'll be looking some of these things up I know this is really a deep topic, but it's interesting, at least I think anyway, and it helps us get a better understanding of God, and then sometimes gets rid of some of the faulty views that we have of God. So I hope you have a great rest of the week, and may God bless you.